Welcome everyone back to the Sanderlanche. This week we are doing Mistborn: The Alloy of Law, chapters 8 to 9. 8, 9, and 10, sorry. I can edit that right.
Yeah,
chapters 8 to 10. In these chapters, we see Wayne go and interrogate some of the survivors of the ballroom massacre by sneaking into the precinct under false pretenses. Following that, there's a conversation between Marasai and Wax in their room, which ends with the butler trying to kill everyone by blowing it the fuck up. So that was interesting. And then following that, our trio decided to go and check out the hideout that Wayne found information from and some of the things they find there. I'm Dak, and with me as always is...
Data?
Joe?
And Jamie.
All right, buckle up. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
The streets spin shimmers and the walls they curl. The grip of greed, it rains. There's just one track to lead this moving train. The price of progress is a dying world. The price of trust is pain after the wrath, the bitter shame. Look up into the night. Pillars of risen, they fall in their light. Forward we run, splinter the steel, weaken the wheel. Through life and loss, rivers of soul are trying. The heavy cost of haunting the hands of time. Through life and loss.
So yeah, I like the description of it as like the survivors of the massacre, which makes it sound really horrible. But it's like, oh no, it was a massacre of all the bad guys, and the good guys win.
Yeah, it makes it sound like they were the victims when they initiated it.
Yeah, it's all their fault, really. They deserved it. So,
Yeah, it's been made.
What did you guys think of these 3 chapters? This nice big chunk of the book that we read this time.
This is pretty fun. Yeah, like I enjoyed seeing Wayne. This was the first chapter was Wayne in his element. Just like, all right, this is me putting on a false identity and scamming my way inside to like get a task done. So it was really fascinating seeing him pull that off, and just the points where it's like you're making it obvious you actually aren't who you say you are, and then he just like sort of spins around and finds some way to get back on top of the situation. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, the butler. Shit. Okay.
Yeah. Who saw that coming? Jeez.
I mean, when he came into the room and started preparing tea, and he didn't say anything, and no one else said anything about it, but just the note that he came in, something like set off a red flag. I'm just like, hang on, why wouldn't I feel like he should, like, someone should acknowledge him or something? Not so. Yeah, the fact that he just went completely unannounced, I've just gone, something's not right here. So, but yeah, no, he went above and beyond.
Maybe...
All right, poison didn't work. Pull out the gun. Gun didn't work. Blow it up.
Maybe they've got it all wrong. Maybe he wasn't out to kill Wax the whole time. Maybe he was just a disgruntled employee and he was like, well, this is my chance. So if they don't acknowledge me, that's it. I'm pulling out everything.
I'm going to come prepared for this.
Yeah, or if Wayne...
You have ignored me for the last time,
comment. Sir. Yeah. So it turns out he's always prepared. Today was the day.
So...
He's always had the tea in his back, the poison in his back pocket.
Yeah, just always ready to go. If you piss him off one step too far, the poison's right there. But based on something that he wrote in the annotations, I gotta ask: did anyone see it as any sort of red flag when he only made 1 cup of tea?
Yes.
Okay.
So, like, I kind of had the same feeling that Dak had. It's like when he came in and nobody acknowledged him and he didn't say anything. And then when he only made 1 cup of tea to serve to Wax, because, like, that's not a normal thing he would do. Like, normally I would think that his plan would be to serve everybody. And so he would have poured several cups at one time, you know, because that is what you would normally do when somebody has guests. You would serve everybody at the same time. Yeah. So that threw up a red flag. And then immediately when he, like, basically after reading the whole section, I'm like, okay, so his original intent was probably only to kill Wax. And then when that didn't work, he had to try to shoot Wax. And when that didn't work, that's when he had to blow up everybody. Because I don't think he was planning on killing anyone else when he originally came in, just Wax.
So Brendan mentions in the annotations that is in there specifically. It's like a hint to people that he only makes this 1 cup of tea. This guy is not used to trying to kill people, and he was so nervous that he makes the mistake of not making everybody tea and like poisoning one of the cups or whatever. And it's supposed to be a hint to you that something is a little bit off before it happens. And he's like, my writing group caught this, but they thought it was a mistake in the writing and tried to correct it. So
also he didn't ask what sort of tea anyone wanted, which he was super all over before. So
yeah, I found that more weird. I sort of missed that he only made the one. I think in my head I was kind of like, you've made one and you'll make the others after.
That would make sense too. Although I think you'd serve the guests first, probably, wouldn't you?
Well, you
I don't know.
think so, but I wasn't expecting anything to happen at all with him. So
right.
Yeah, it kind of all came as a bit of a shock anyway. And then you go back in hindsight and go, oh, yeah, okay, I see the red flags.
Sorry, Jack, we kind of got off on a sidetrack during your thing. Did you have anything else you wanted to throw out?
That's okay. Oh, just like the exploring the Foundry chapter was that was kind of interesting. I did like the look into Wayne's backstory and his history, but beyond that, it was like, all right, we're searching and we didn't really find anything. I'm sure the numbers on the box will be important at some point, but I've got nothing on how or why, so we'll see when we come to it. But yeah, on the whole, like these chapters, like every chapter had something very nice and meaty and interesting in it.
We didn't even really hear what the numbers were, so it would be hard to guess like what their significance might be.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, these chapters were good. I think this is probably the thing I like most about this book at this point is that there's a lot of mysteries going on right now, and so there's a lot of stuff to kind of figure out and solve, which is something I always really enjoy in books like these. So, but yes, I will say, until he came in and I was like, something's off with this guy, I will say I was completely shocked by Tealum, and I almost expected them to be like, oh, this wasn't even Tealum, it was an imposter or something. But then, everybody blows up, so you don't even really get a chance to verify if it was him or not. But yeah, I was pretty shocked by that. And then I did like that they addressed, could he possibly have had a hand in the uncle's demise as well? Because I was thinking that as soon as he tried to kill them, I'm like, well, maybe his uncle and sister and all them didn't die by accident. So I'm kind of glad that they addressed that. The Foundry stuff was okay. It's like, okay, well, we're going to this empty place. It's not super, super interesting. But yeah, I did like the Wayne's backstory stuff a little bit, which, I mean, by his character and mannerisms, I kind of figured maybe he was a criminal at one point because he's constantly clipping things. And
yeah, it's true. He steals a lot for a cop, right?
Right. So I was like, yeah, maybe he had a kind of a rough upbringing. And I kind of skipped over the beginning part, but I really loved the Wayne. I think that's the scene I've liked Wayne in the most, when he pretends to be a police officer and goes in and interrogates those guys. I think that's probably my favorite Wayne stuff so far. So yeah, I really liked all three of these chapters. Probably the first two a little bit more than the last one, but yeah, it's fun.
I like the idea that it's not Talam, and that they found out there, this man's wearing a mask, like a Mission Impossible mask.
Right. Like, Wayne has plenty of disguises to deceive people. Sure. Maybe somebody else is good at that too. So, yeah, but I mean, it makes more sense that it was actually him, but it's also kind of sad.
Now, we may never know, unless the real Talam shows up and he's like, I was on vacation. What happened here?
Yeah, don't you remember you signed for me to go on vacation and everything? He's like, oh, yeah. He's like, I got so distracted with my Foundry work.
I was gonna say, like, maybe they could get to the Foundry and find the real Tillam tied up in like the boiler room or something.
That's true.
I think it also helps make a little more sense out of the him not wanting Maricide to be there. Like when she shows up that day, he's just kind of like, because he probably knows at that point that he's gonna have to do it. Also, I skipped over this, but something else I wanted to address is we found out that Maricide is the half sister of Steris. Yeah, so that's a big reveal too. So that kind of helps alleviate some of the like, this lady's still hiding something vibes, because she was. She was. It wasn't as sinister as we thought, but maybe there's still more. You never know.
Mm-hmm. There's always another secret.
Yeah, no joke.
Yeah, I really like these chapters as well. I really enjoyed seeing Wayne imitate a police officer. I thought that was a lot of fun, and it was really nice to kind of get in his head and see a bit of what he's doing, with his different accents and disguises. Like, he puts a lot of thought into all of this stuff, which was really cool. And sort of how he was like playing the crooks and I really liked that. I thought that was a very cool character. I really enjoy him. And then really nice to see that sort of the flip side of a bit of the way, like why he is this way later on. I'm quite enjoying the dynamic between all three of our main characters at the moment. There's no one that I really hate or am annoyed by yet, which is good. What happened in the middle? Yeah, we've touched on the scene about I just didn't expect, an assassination attempt. I'm very interested to know what has happened there and what his tie-in is, and yeah, the mystery of what happened with the uncle unfolding too. There's all sorts of different crimes. We've got, bloody tan thing and all sorts of different things. I'm so excited to see how little bits of all of this stuff comes together. But yeah, it was a good read. Really enjoying it so far.
Yeah, the thing with the butler, if you were looking back, maybe it even sheds more light on the multiple chapters where he's tried to convince Wax to pay attention to his house finances and stop trying to fight crime.
Yeah. So so then it makes me wonder, like, what his role in it was. Was he just keeping tabs on Wax and being charged to keep him out of their business? Like, was that his whole purpose? And they're like, okay, if you can't keep him out of our business, then you're gonna have to kill him.
And it almost lends credence also to the theory that I think both Dak and Jamie kind of had from the start, where it was like, are they interested in Wax? Are they going to try to take Wax? Was Maricide some sort of plant to draw Wax out or something? So apparently somebody has been keeping an eye on Wax from even before we knew there was anything going on.
And who better than the butler?
Never trust the butler.
We've also assumed, like, if we're right and it is his old frenemy Miles who is behind everything. I don't know what their relationship was, but if that was behind and he has a personal stake in it against Wax, it makes sense that he would have someone on the inside Wax's household.
Yes, indeed.
I just said inside twice. What an idiot.
Some man on the inside who's also on the inside.
Yeah.
Although it really is interesting.
The inside man who's not allowed inside.
It's like the coach. It's true. It's the coachman, and the coachman is the inside man, but they don't let him inside.
Oh, is that why Steris has the dalliances with the coachman? Because you don't let him in the house.
like we see isn't it the coachman who, like, Wax looks out the window after the explosion and sees him outside, like, oh my gosh, like he doesn't even go inside when there's an explosion and he might need to save somebody.
He's standing in the street just going, oh man, I gotta quit drinking.
I guess, okay, let's get into these things. We're going to start with the broadsheet page, or quarter of a page that we get, because there's a few interesting little things on here. The first article is about, is there life across the ocean? And it tells the story of some shipwrecked people who wound up on a strange island and found a refugee there with a mysterious story that we don't actually get to hear any of in here. But maybe there's some other culture out there besides just us here in Ellendale Basin. Could be interesting.
That is something I've sort of noticed about, like, the books so far in the Cosmere. It's like, yeah, they're all on these separate planets, but we only ever seem to see one small chunk of it. Now, granted, in Era 1 of Mistborn, that made sense because, the rest of the planet was uninhabitable. So the Lord Ruler just ruled over what was left. But even in Elantris, it was like the action was contained to this one section. And then, as we saw in Emperor's Soul, it's like there is actually more action elsewhere on the planet that is just, left out. So, I mean, granted, a full global adventure is probably a lot to have to try and cover off in a novel like this size. So I get it, but it does seem like we really spend a lot of time confined to one area of each planet. Even
just one city, like the entire first Mistborn book was all in Luthadel, and the second one was pretty much all in Luthadel. And then Elantris takes place almost entirely in, like, K/Elantris.
Yeah.
All of the Emperor's Soul takes place in one room for the most part, and all inside the palace at the very least. So yeah, you're not wrong. I like the two competing articles, like, right across from each other. One is like, horseless carriages are a menace, and one is like, the automobile is superior to the horse. So they're in a transitional period, I guess.
Yeah. That was great.
Gotta have both those on, like, the front page.
Right? Gotta give equal time to each perspective. We get Iron Eye's sightings on the rise, which not much detail in the section that we see, but it's interesting. Like, when death walks the streets of Ellendale, how can you know that you're safe? Here are 16 tips proven to help keep Iron Eyes from your home. Wards are included to make him pass over while you're sleeping. Yeah, it's got to be 16, right? I just like the idea that there's a ward that you could put on your door, and Iron Eyes is like, oh, okay, I guess I can't go in there.
Yeah, exactly. He's like,
I just sort
I
of-
wasn't invited in.
I just assumed it was some kind of metal or something. It's like they couldn't see anything
Ah.
through. And then that would sort of keep them away. If you can't make out the details, they're likely to not go in.
That's an interesting.
Maybe?
Yeah. When it said wards are included, I guess I just thought they'd like drawn a picture of like a ward that you can copy, but your thought makes sense.
Let's see if it pans out.
It's like line the house with lead, and then he can't see inside, and he doesn't know you're home.
Use our lead-based paint.
Well, yeah.
And then the last one is an interesting. It's the Faceless Immortal saved my life. A woman in the 5th Octant suffered a harrowing experience when a fire broke out in her tenement. She and her children were saved by a shadowy figure she swore was wearing the face of her departed husband. A sighting of one of the Faceless Immortals? Delusion? Simple fancy? You decide.
Okay, so this made me think, using the face of your departed husband, is there still a Cantor somewhere around using old bones?
That is kind of the impression it gives.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because I thought they were all dead, or at least no longer sentient after everything, and it didn't seem like Sazed went to a lot of work
Right.
to restore them.
Yeah, they all pulled out their spikes, at least all the ones that were like within earshot of his call to like, the time has come, do the resolution or whatever. They all pulled out their spikes. But
Yeah,
I mean, there could have
we
been
made jokes
more
about
other
one
places.
being in the bath.
Yeah, we did. I remember. But I mean, there could have been some that were still out on a job or whatever and survived somewhere. It's possible.
I guess.
And honestly, I mean, who knows? Maybe you just toss the spikes back in and everybody's happy. I don't know.
True. I guess we don't know what happened to their spikes afterwards, do we?
No. So maybe they're still out there somewhere. The Faceless Immortals serving harmony for some reason. Okay, but yeah, that's everything on that broadsheet page. The Ellendale Daily News. Content for every octant. They want everybody to buy it.
Content for the Octant.
So yes, we start out with Wayne going into the 4th Octant Constabulary Precinct offices. It's a long name. Why is it Connors wore such uncomfortable hats? Bad hats. A bad hat could make a man right disagreeable, and that was the truth. He puts a lot of stock in hats, does Wayne. His lucky hat, his constable hat, whatever. But yeah, like he just busts in, and later he mentions, he's like, all you got to do is act important and angry, and people want to get out of your way. He's stolen a uniform from, he traded for a uniform up in the 7th Octant, left a right good shirt as a replacement, as fair a trade as any man could ask. After all, that shirt had been silk.
Oh.
So, totally good
Yes,
trade
it's a
for
good
you.
one.
Where'd he get the silk shirt, though? Probably Wax's house. But yeah, so he's who's in charge here? And they're like, oh, you want Captain Breton, sir? Where the hell is he? And then he strolls over. He didn't imitate accents. He outright stole them. They're the only things he's allowed to steal.
As an amateur voice actor, it's like listening to him talk about accents and how he picks it up. I'm just like, finally, someone put it into words.
I wish I could pick them up as easily as he does. This is impressive. And he can mix and match. He's like, I throw a little bit of that in here and a little bit of this.
Yep.
So he goes to knock on this guy's door when Captain Breton pops out. He's like, what's this racket? What's all the yelling? And he pretends to be, I don't know if he's made up this name or if this is the actual name of the captain over in the 7th Octant, but he's relying on the fact that he's heard that Breton is terrible with names and is worried about, and always getting people mixed up. So he's like, okay, I can use that. He's like, oh, we sat at the same table at the chairman's dinner last spring. Don't you remember me? And so this accent is a mixture of 7th Sun Lord and foreman of an ironworks with just a hint of canal captain. Made him feel like he's stuffed cotton in half of his mouth and had borrowed the voice from an angry dog. I just want to try
Sure.
I want to use that description to try to come up with this accent. That sounds amazing.
Hold on. Where is he? Where's the captain?
I feel like you sound drunk.
Yeah, well, he might be.
He's makes that really frustrated guy. Where is he? Where is he at once?
I didn't get a harumph from that guy. Harumph, harumph. You watch your ass.
Arroo! Headless body of Agnew.
Yeah, that's what I was hearing in that sound.
I like that even when he was in Weathering, he sometimes takes trips to Ellendale to collect some accents. That's where all the best ones are.
I guess you get good variety in the city.
Right? Yeah. And so he's like, hey, what's all this about you having prisoners from the Vanishers gang? Good steal, man. We had to hear from the broadsheets. And so they have a discussion, and apparently there's a jurisdictional thing where it's like, because they were captured here, the 4th Octant Constabulary gets them for like an initial inquest, but because they were already wanted for crimes in the 7th Octant, then they get them for prosecution rights, he says. He's like, he had to have Wax write all that down for him so that he would know what he was saying. And he says, the captain's like, oh, well, we sent you a missive that we had them. And it's like, you know how many missives we get in a day? And he goes, well, you should hire somebody to go sort through them for you. That's what I did. And then after he makes all this speech, he's like, well, you have to have a written request for that. And Wayne's like, well, we sent a missive. And Breton's like, well, I mean, we get a lot of missives. It's like, I thought you said you had hired somebody to read them. It's like, yeah, well, we sent them out for scones earlier, you see.
Uno reverse card.
Oh, well then, can I have one? Of the scones or the prisoners?
Scones, huh?
The funny thing is, I don't know which one Wayne meant when he said that.
I'm just like, I can't believe the guy even offered them. It's like, can I have one of the scones? It's like, well, I wasn't going to, but now that you've offered, sure.
I mean, yeah, now that you mention it, that's not what kind you get. I love the expressions in this world that are clearly like, okay, look, Brett, let's melt this down and forge it. Just all the metal-related expressions are very cool.
I think it's really clever that they're all in there, but also I don't feel like it's too in your face to go, oh my God, they're doing this again. It's really cool. He does a very good job.
Agreed.
So is strike while the iron's hot still a thing in this world? I presume it has to be.
Yeah, I mean, sounds like it would fit. So he's like, look, let's make a deal. You let me question some of them, then we'll stop the transfer request. You can prosecute, and we get to keep looking for the boss. And apparently the boss is the real prize. In this city, getting somebody that big could mean glory, promotions, maybe an invitation to join the upper crust, like the late Lord Peterus had himself done when he caught the Copper Strangler, which is apparently a guy who went around strangling people with copper wire. So I guess the name makes sense.
Why not?
So I think Marisai mentions him later.
I think they specifically say he strangled women, so I'm just like, so this is your Jack the Ripper.
Right, yeah. Except he got caught by Lord Pateris. Before he was a lord. I guess he was just like a captain or whatever back then. But see, I like that guy even a little bit better now, and he got shot in the head. So that's unfortunate. And so they agree that Wayne can question 2 of the prisoners for 10 minutes. And somebody in the 7th Octant Constabulary is going to be mad when they're like, oh no, you've ceded your rights to transfer. We had a deal.
Yeah, I hope that blows up somehow. That's going to be hilarious.
It's like, no, this guy came, Guffin Truncheon or something. They're like, yeah, we have no idea who that is. You're full of shit. None of them have said anything so far. Wayne recognizes the first guy they bring out, who he'd broken his arm with a dueling cane, and he's like, downright rude, trying to shoot me like that. When a fellow pulls out a dueling cane, you should respond with your own, or at least a knife. Trying to shoot Wayne was like bringing dice to a card game. What was the world coming to?
Wayne, I think you need to step back a bit, buddy.
Right? I love that interaction. It's like, how rude. And so he goes in to question this guy, and he starts kind of whispering things here and there. He switches accents to an accent the bandits had been using. A cup of canal worker for authenticity, healthy dose of bartender for trust, and the rest 6th Octant North Side, where most of them sounded like they came from. So he claims that he killed a cop, took this uniform, all to get you guys out of here. It's like, oh no, don't do that. Don't look eager now. That'll make him suspicious. Damn it, you're going to have to spit on me again. And so he basically maneuvers this guy into giving him a little bit of information. Tarson's not the boss. He just hits stuff. He's like, who recruited you? Clamps does all the recruitment. You should know that.
Okay, now let's just pause for a second here. The listeners know how much we love Futurama. So how many of them, knowing there's a character called Clamps who works with the bad guys in this book, were waiting for us to just go, oh, gotta give him the clamps.
Clamp, kabamp.
Can I do my clamps? Not yet, clamps.
Oh. Yeah, now.
Shut up, Francis.
Your name is Francis?
I want the boss to be the robot Don now.
I don't care when this guy shows up. There is no way I'll be able to take him seriously. I'll just be like, can I give him the clamps now?
Joey Mousepad.
I was about to say, does that make Tarson Joey Mousepad?
Sure. Oh, Miles is the Donbot?
Yeah, assuming that it is Miles, then yeah, I guess he's going to be the Donbot. Make him an off.
Are you trying to steal from the Don? I'm trying, but he's not making it easy.
Oh, so happy when finally they announced he was coming back for the next Futurama round. Hopefully the episodes will be good.
Yeah, who's putting it on? Is it
It's Hulu, apparently.
Hulu?
Yeah.
Okay. That's got to be better than Comedy Central. Gosh, that was awful.
I'm hoping. I mean, there was some okay stuff in the Comedy Central episodes, but I didn't like them as much overall.
I still like the Comedy Central episodes. Like there are some big misfires in them, but there are some gold ones, I think.
Yeah, I guess somebody would have to sift through them. Maybe if I got Dak's recommendations on which ones were good, I could go watch those. There's just so
I will absolutely do that.
Yeah, do that because I was just so disappointed in what I saw of what I saw.
I saw a bunch of those episodes, and there's only, looking back now, there's only a couple of moments that I can pick out and remember clearly. One is the ghost horse marriage joke, which I've used multiple times. It's like, oh, I got to legalize ghost horse marriage. And the other one is that two-headed goat filling the pool with vomit from both ends, and it still makes me sick thinking about it right now.
It's pretty gross.
Yeah, and those two episodes are among the ones I would say aren't as good.
I hate that.
But yeah, no, like some of my favorite moments are from the Comedy Central like episodes. I mean, Jamie and I still laugh every time we think about Zoidberg singing harmonies with himself in one of the very few Hermes-centric episodes.
Oh yeah, brilliant. Very brilliant.
Yep. He's singing along to the tune of Monster Mash, and so he's doing the wow harmony together. And Amy's pointing out, it's like, how is he doing that? Everyone's like, just lighten up, Amy.
Oh, Amy. Okay, sorry. We'll back off to Futurama a little bit, but we can't promise Clamps is not going to make multiple appearances.
Right. Yeah,
oh yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. You guys just get used to it. You should be used to it by this point. I mean, come on.
Right.
Yeah.
And Bretton's like, why are you whispering so much? You said we could listen. He's like, well, yeah, I said you could listen. I didn't say that you'd hear anything.
Oh, got him.
But he gets from the guy, the one guy that he's worried might talk. He's like, oh yeah, so-and-so's the new guy. And so Wayne's like, okay, I want to pick the next person I interviews. And so he goes for so-and-so, the new kid. And he's going to turns on his speed bubble. And he's like, don't move or else they'll see. He's like, okay, so Clamp sent me. I'm working on a way to get you out of here. Be still, don't move. Because if you move, they will notice that like we're in this sped up state. If you don't, then they won't be able to tell necessarily. And so he tricks this kid into, he's like, so which of our bases were you at? He's like, oh, I only knew about one base. Yeah, the boss only shows one to the new kids just in case they get caught. It's like, oh, well, I was at the old foundry over in Longard. I thought we were the only ones. He's like, yeah, that's the idea. And so he tricks several bits of information out of him. He gets confirmation about, Clamps is the recruiter. And eventually he's like, okay, look, let me just give you some advice here. Get out of this robbing people business. You're not good at it. I've just tricked you into like revealing this information. And like, don't worry. I mean, I'm on your side, remember, but you're just lucky. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to wait until evening so that we can go back and get everything cleared out at that one place, and then just tell the cops everything you know. You don't know enough to hurt us, so make sure you get a solicitor in here and get them to guarantee you immunity or to let you go free in return for your information. He's like, and then get out of the city. Go out to the roughs, be a mill worker. Nobody will care there. Just stay out of crime. You're going to get someone killed. And the kid's just like, oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah, it's a really nice moment because Wayne doesn't have to do any of this.
Right.
Like, but he's genuinely trying to help the kid out. And the kid will never know the truth behind everything. So, like, under all his bluster, Wayne is a good bloke.
Well, and
I guess now.
Yeah.
I think now knowing a bit more about Wayne's backstory, you can sort of see why he wanted to help the kid.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We know now he's been in that basically the same position before where he got in over his head criming, and apparently Wax got him out, so, pay it forward a little bit. And so then he's like, okay, just resist everything I say from now on. It's like, you talk or I'll have your toes. And just gives a show of it for about 5 minutes, arguing back and forth before storming out. And then Bretton's like, I'll be dead and buried before these men talk. And Wayne's like, man, if only we were so lucky. Because Breton's the same guy who yelled at Wax earlier, if I'm remembering right. So we don't like him.
Yes, he was.
And then
Captain Twat Baskets.
yeah. And then Wayne's like, "Hey, I think the scones are here. Excellent. At least this trip won't be a complete waste." I agree. That's a really fun chapter where we get into Wayne's head. And actually, if you read a little closer, it's interesting to see like the changes in his own perception. Like he starts off when he arrives talking about like, oh, the Connors are wearing these uncomfortable hats. And then as he slips more into character, he starts thinking about them as constables in his like internal monologue instead of Connors. And so he's and I love the bit where I kind of skipped over it, but he's thinking to himself, here I am, 25 years as a constable and still only a 3-bar. Should have been promoted ages ago. So he really gets deep into these characters. He's a little method, maybe.
He's method.
The method actor.
So we can get what's his name, Batman to play him.
Pattinson?
No, Nolan Batman.
Christian Bale is who he's talking
Christian
about.
Bale.
Oh, right, yeah.
The method actor.
No, I hear method actor and I go to Daniel Day-Lewis. I'm like, I think he's
that makes
also
sense.
probably a bit old for the role.
Maybe he could be Wax or Tillom. Just throw him in as Tillom, the evil butler.
Hunting quail, that's all.
Oh, so the words of founding, we're back to Wax and Marasai now. The words of founding include a reference to 2 more metals and their alloys. But the ancients believed in 16 metals, and the law of 16 holds so strongly in nature that it can't be disregarded. And you remember that Preservation told us that he built 16 into like the foundation of the world, basically, as a signal. So apparently it's in the science of this, you see it in nature a lot on this planet, is 16. And so they're wondering about these, because they know, or at least had known of adium and the alloy of palladium or whatever it was. So add 4 more metals and we're up to like 18 now. And they're like, but 16 they thought 16 so much, and that's because adium doesn't fit with them or normal.
I was going to say that was because adium and lerasium are not natural metals.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yep. But I guess they still don't seem to quite understand that. And Marasai's like, oh, you're a philosopher. Which this didn't sound like philosophy to me, because he says either harmony changed the way allomancy itself works, or we never really understood it. And that seems sciencey to me. I don't know why she's like, oh, philosopher, huh? But whatever. And he's like, law keeping and philosophy are actually pretty similar. And then he wants to know what got her into studying law. And they have a whole discussion about the nature of good and evil. And she has her metaphor about the world being all one brightness, so that suddenly a light that was way brighter or an area that was way darker would stand out significantly either way. And so in our world, most people are maybe average good / evil. So these really good people or these really evil people draw her attention. Why is it that in one instance, a man raised in a basically good family, surrounded by basically good friends with good employment and satisfactory means, starts strangling women with copper wires and sinking their bodies into the canals?
With how much this guy gets mentioned all of a sudden over these couple of chapters, I'm like, is this going to be a Driok crush throat situation where it turns out to be someone we've known all along?
That would be funny. It said that
Is Captain Brett the Copper Strangler?
It's gonna. I don't know that it says he was executed. It just said that he was captured. So yeah, he could have been arrested and be hanging out somewhere if what's his name actually caught the right one even.
True.
And Wack is trying to explain. It's like, look, I'm not really that heroic as you're making me out to be. And she's like, well, I'm certain it doesn't look that way to you. It's like, did you ever heard of the first guy I brought in? And she blushes and she's like, yeah, let's just say I've heard of it. Yeah. Parrot the Black, rapist, and a pewter arm. You walked into this lawkeeper station, looked at the board, ripped his picture off, took it with you, and came back 3 days later with him over the saddle of your horse. Of all the men, you picked the most difficult and the most dangerous. And Wax is like, yeah, he was worth the most money. I looked at that board, and I thought to myself, well, any of these blokes is right likely to kill me, so I might as well pick the one who's worth the most. I hadn't eaten anything in 3 days but jerky and a few beans. And he's like, then there was Tarako. And she's like, oh, yeah, one of the greatest bandits of our era. And he's like, yeah, he just robbed a cobbler a few days before, and I thought maybe if I captured him, I might get some free boots out of it. And he's just like, you don't look disappointed. And she's like, oh, all this just makes it more interesting and more real. I need to write this stuff down. And he's like, so, I mean, you want to become one of these heroes? And she's like, no. He's like, you can do it. I mean, society might tell you that you can't do stuff because you're a woman, but once you head out there, nobody gives a crap. Don't forget the Ascendant Warrior herself was a woman. And I don't know why, but I love the exchange. Can I admit something to you? And he's like, only if it's salacious, personal, or embarrassing. Like, this is once again him like not being like that serious guy that we were seeing earlier.
He's an excitable guy when he's with his friends.
Mm-hmm. She says, do you realize I can send for terrace food at any hour of the night and have it delivered? I don't know what terrace food is, but that just sounds cool.
He's like, oh, that sounds delicious.
He's like, incredible. He hadn't realized that was possible.
We have Uber Eats.
What, you can do that?
Wait, I can eat on the toilet and nobody's going to judge me?
I'm going to judge you. Sorry.
I'm sure that Tillorm is going to judge him for that.
Oh, yeah.
Because you know that Tillorm is cleaning up that plate and just going, why?
That's actually why Tillum did what he did.
Yep, that's what it was.
Too many plates in the shitter.
Wax has let Wayne stay at his house for one night, and Tillum's like, I've already had enough. I can't take it anymore. But I like Marisai. She's like, look, I'm interested in this stuff, but I don't mix well with dirt and grime and lack of personal hygiene. I don't have a problem letting men be the one to put on the revolvers and shoot people. Does that make me a traitor to my sex? And he goes, oh, I don't think so, but you are pretty good at shooting things. And she says, well, shooting things is okay. But people, no. I just like the Ascendant Warrior is the model for self-actualized women. They have classes on it. Her legacy is written into the law. So I do like that this society venerates her so much that it's like, no, women are 100% equal right from the beginning of our new society, because otherwise Vin would come back from the dead and kick our asses probably.
Yeah.
But she wants to take a different approach. She's like, I'm studying law because I have these ideas about how to improve things. And she shows him, she's like, look, here's like some statistics I'm putting together about like the stuff that makes crime go down the most. Adding more constables, hanging more criminals, that sort of stuff is like medium efficiency. What has worked best is like, here's this case, renovation, where this Lord Joshin himself, whoever that is, purchased this land in a less reputable area and cleaned it up, made it nice, and suddenly people weren't committing crimes anymore.
Gentrification.
Well, that implies that you're kind of like kicking the old people out and like nicer people are moving in. She says that it's the same people. It's just the place is nice, and so they don't commit crimes as much.
Oh, now that the floor's clean, I don't want to get blood on it.
Just as a hot day can make a person irritable, it appears that a rundown area can make an ordinary man into a criminal. Oh, and then Wax pulls out his watch, and she's like, oh, right, yeah, we shouldn't just be chatting about like the philosophy of crime and human nature. We're supposed to be rescuing Steris. And Wax is like, well, we can't do anything until Wayne gets back. He really should be back by now. And Wayne's like, yep, right here. You two seem like you were having some kind of smart people moment, and I didn't want to interfere. Wise of you, your stupidity can be infectious. Don't use your fancy words around me, son. I love their the way they play off each other. And you're right. Marisai kind of gets in on it before the end of these chapters, and so the three of them have a really good like dynamic going. I got some scones, and the Dirty Connors even paid for them. Wayne, we're Dirty Connors. Not no more. Now we're independent citizens with a mind towards civic duty and eating the scones of Dirty Connors. I do like they were lawmen professionally for who knows how many years at this point. But he is very happy to instantly be like, no, I'm not one of them anymore. Those are dirty cops. I'm just like a normal dude now. And Marisai's like, those don't sound appetizing when described that way. He's like, no, they're good. I brought you some.
Do you have any sugar? Sugar? Sure. Here you go, Homer.
Sorry, it's not in packets. Do you want some
any
cream?
No. Hank Scorpio.
I love Hank Scorpio so much. Like, he reaches in and there's change jiggling in his pockets. And he's like, okay, here's 2 handfuls of sugar. And he reaches back into his pockets when he asks about the cream. So It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, pass.
maybe it was cream packets. Maybe this time, maybe it wasn't packets that time.
Well, we'll never know. I think Homer was wise to say no.
I just want a Hank Scorpio TV show, and I always have. That the character is amazing.
Yeah, he's like easily the best one-shot Simpsons character.
Yeah, absolutely. But Wayne is like, I found the location of the Vanishers' hideout, along with the name of their recruiter. And Mayor says, like, how on earth? Whiskey and magic. In other words, Wayne did a lot of fast talking. Nice work.
I really hope Brandon has put whiskey and magic on a shirt.
Right? Yeah, I like it. And he's like, did you get it without the constable's hearing? And Wayne's just like, come on. What do you think? And Maris is like, we should probably tell the constables. And Wax is like, no, we'll drop them an anonymous tip once I've seen the place. And Wayne's like, no, you don't need to. I set a fuse for nightfall. And Wax is like, nice. You can show your appreciation with a big fat nugget of rare and expensive metal. So he's topped off on Bendaloy again. That's good. But as he goes over to the desk with all the stuff on it, Wayne's like, I'm not reaching in there. I like my fingers. And Wax says, it's not going to explode, Wayne. He's like, well, yeah, you said that. That happened once. Do you know how annoying it is to regrow fingers? I'm just saying the most innocent-looking things have a tendency to explode around you. A blowcast, be cautious. Which...
Foreshadowing.
100% foreshadowing. Wax is offended by this, but, And that's when Talam walks in. Marisol's like, hey, we can take my carriage. He's got a basket in one hand, a tray of tea in the other. He starts pouring the tea. And as he's bringing the single cup over to Wax on a little tray, Wayne plucks it, and Talam tries to pull it away. And Wayne's like, man, this is great. Why didn't you ever get me one of these chaps back in Weathering? The butler scowls at him and then hurries back to prepare another cup. And this is when Wax is like, I still don't understand why they were trying to take Marisai. Like, there were better targets at the party. And then he looks at her, and he's thinking about it. And he's like, oh, okay, you're illegitimate then. Steris' half-sister by Lord Harms, I assume. Which really was very insensitive. And even, like, Wayne is not a sensitive guy, but he's like, really, Wax? Usually I wait to call someone a bastard until the second date. Third if she's pretty. And they have a whole thing where Wax is like, I'm sorry. That was insensitive. And Marisai's like, no, I mean, it's what I am. I've gotten used to it. But it does shed some light for Wax on, A, why they suddenly got very uncomfortable during Lord Harms and Marisai during this the mistress part of the discussion, and why Steris included a mistress section of the contract. It's like, she's used to the Lord of a House not being faithful. And so as Wax is trying to apologize, and Marisai's like, no, it's fine, really. Wayne's like, tea's poisoned, and falls over.
Doesn't that beat all?
Right. And Marisai gasps, but Wax, being used to crazy shit happening, looks over at Talam and readies himself just as the butler turns around and levels a pistol. He talked about that one metal button that he keeps on his vest earlier, and he uses it here to attack Talam just in time to make the shot go wild because both the gun and the bullet were aluminum. So he definitely seems to be with the same crew who had the aluminum guns earlier. Or else that's a very strange coincidence given that Wax had never seen a gun like that before them.
I mean, Wax had the gun in his possession, right? That Wayne took from.
That's true. Yeah.
It's entirely possible that Talam has just found it and stolen
Same gun.
I hadn't even thought of that. That's a really good point.
I don't know how likely it is, but it's possible.
Right. And Talam starts like crawling away. He's horribly injured now from taking this metal button to the chest. Mm-hmm. And Wax starts to ignore him. He goes to Wayne. Like, Wayne, are you okay? Poison. I hate poison. Worse than losing a finger. And Marisai is alarmed. She's like, Lord Waxilium. And he's like, no, Wayne's going to be fine. It's all good. Not talking about him, the butler. And Talam was fiddling with the basket that he'd brought, reached a bloodied hand in, pulled on something, and Wax is like, Wayne, bubble now. And that's when the basket erupts in a ball of fire and freezes. And Wayne is, I warned you. I said things are always blowing up around you. I refuse to take responsibility for this one. And Wayne's like, he's your butler. That's a fair point, I feel like.
And Wayne, you are always a dick to him. So
this is really your fault when you think about it, Wayne. Sorry. And this is a really interesting bit to me because they're so used to being in like horrible danger that Wax and Wayne immediately start like just a very calm discussion about how to get out of this situation. While Marisai is staring at the explosion and she keeps going, it's getting bigger. Wayne's like, damn, that's a big one. Shall we go out the windows then? Like, nah, that blast is going to be hard to outrun. And so they have a discussion where Wayne's trying to be like, no, you can just push down the wall. And Wax is like, I can't push down that wall. You know how heavy that wall is? It's brick and stone, and it's well made. I would just throw myself into the explosion. And Marisai's just like, gentlemen, it's getting bigger. It's getting really, really close. And Wayne's like, just make yourself heavier. He's like, heavy enough that I can rip the wall off a building? The floor would never be able to take it. It would plan. So as the explosion gets very, very close, and I really do wonder, like, how this would work exactly. Like, because the piece of explosion that hits the bubble would go really fast before, like, the next little bit of explosion gets there, right? So the first bit of heat would dissipate really quickly before the next bit of heat arrives, dissipate really quickly. inside the bubble. So I don't know how badly
Well,
they
that's
would
it,
be
'cause
hurt.
the bubble doesn't move, but people can move in and out of the bubble.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, right.
And I don't know how the explosion would interact with it. There have been questions asked about stuff going partly in and partly out of a speed bubble, and Brandon has basically said that a thing can't be partly in and partly out. It's either in or it's out, and that depends on, to some extent, like how the object perceives itself or its center of mass. And if that's inside, then the whole thing is inside, as far as the effect of the bubble is concerned. But I don't know how that works in like regular terms. Like if you shove half of a stick in there and it's not considered all the way in the bubble, does that mean that it's moving really slow from your perspective as it shoves into the bubble at you? I don't know.
Didn't he already say like don't even get
Yeah.
me started on the physics of the bubble? It doesn't make
Yeah.
a lot of sense.
Yep. So that's why I'm just like, I don't want to get too much into it. But as the explosion is approaching them in the bubble, it does make me wonder, like how would the bubble affect how powerful the explosion is on them?
This is where Bruce Willis from Looper shows up and says, "Don't think about it too hard."
This is maybe we want to save this for the end, but do we want to talk about the Kickstarter thing?
Oh yeah. Let's get into that at the end. That's a good point. I'd kind of forgotten about that.
Okay.
So Wax and Wayne know what the plan is without having to discuss it anymore. Now that they've both thought of this, but Marisai's like, "What are we doing?" And Wax is laying down on the floor and like grabs her and pulls her on himself. He's like, "Just hold on." And he makes himself so heavy that he breaks through the floor and falls to the floor below with Marisai on top of him. And at the last moment, as he's falling, he tries to like make himself light and push down against the nails or whatever in the floor so that they don't smash into it. But
yeah.
And then something
When
drops
they
down
land,
and falls on them.
Right. When they land, she's like, "Is that a thick book, or are you just happy to see me?" That's not a good joke, I guess.
We haven't had a lot of thick book discussion in this one, so that's fair.
I laughed, but I was muted.
I had a mouthful of Sprite. Sorry.
Oh,
Which is now all over the floor, obviously.
obviously.
I'm just glad it's not on the computer.
Yep, good call. But Wayne falls down after them and protects them from some of the flash of the explosion, even though they're on the bottom floor. Like, it comes down through the hole, basically. And as they get up, Wax is like, "No, Wayne. He'd used a lot of his health the previous night. He said he only had enough left for one bullet wound. But he can feel a pulse, and as he watches, like, these horrible wounds on his back start to close. But he says that a blood maker, as they're using healing, they have to use less of it if they extend the healing over a longer period of time. So Wayne's not going to heal it all instantly. He's going to let it work a little more slowly. That way he's not using up as much. And he's like, "Marisai, are you okay?" And she's, once again, this is going back to her when she's in shock. She starts jumping back to statistics or whatever. She's like, 2 in 3 sufferers of great trauma are unable to correctly identify their own injuries as a result of stress. And so he kind of feels around, makes sure that nothing is broken on her. It's like, "Okay, you're fine." And as Wayne gets up, he's like, "Is it bad?" And Wax says she'll pull through. He's like, "No, I mean the duster," because his coat has been like horribly, pretty much destroyed. And Wax says, "Well, you're gonna need a really big patch this time. I told you, innocent things are always exploding around you, Wax. At least you kept your fingers this time."
Yeah, well, we were so focused on the physics of his time bubbles. I'm just like, man, the physics of blood making seem like equally messed up. It's like, oh, let me just expend all the health I've saved up to regrow a limb.
Yep, that's a hell of a thing.
Or else, as we see, like in a second, just ripping all the skin off his back.
Yeah, that's. Wayne's like, "Do you mind?" And Wax is like, "Marisai, you might want to turn away." And she just keeps looking, and he rips off this layer of old burned skin, which is apparently necessary because new skin has grown underneath, and it can't fully heal until he gets rid of the old stuff. And Marisai's like, "Oh, Lord of Harmony."
I have seen some gross stuff.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have seen some gross stuff. But that churned my stomach. Oh.
Yeah, not good. And Wax is like, "I warned you," which, that's fair. She's like, "Well, I didn't know you were going to do that." I'm like, he warned you. You might want to look away. You shouldn't have assumed. That's your fault.
I didn't know you were going to do that. No one knew he was going to pull his skin off like he's pulling a tablecloth off a table.
Yeah, except for Wax and Wayne. They knew that.
Not helpful.
Ugh. But yes, that's horrifying.
The fact that he's like, do you mind? It just makes me think like, oh, he's done this before.
Yep, and clearly they've done this before.
Did he have to pull off the old burnt fingers so he could regrow them?
Ooh, who knows? I didn't want to think about that. Like, you have to rip that off. Oh, no. But like Wayne is now shirtless. He's apparently very lean and muscly and has his gold metal mines bracers on his upper arms. Fortunately, his trousers, while slightly singed, were mostly intact, so that's good. Now they owe me a hat and a duster.
And Impala.
And they're like, okay, you guys sneak out, and I'll meet you. Wax is going to check for the rest of the house staff. And Marissa's like, why are we sneaking? And Wayne explains, well, I mean, whoever did that, whoever hired the guy, is going to think we're dead now. So that'll give us an advantage. We'll have a couple hours that they don't know that we're still kicking and moving around.
Yeah. As Chris Rock said in Dogma, if your enemy knows where you are, then don't be there.
I don't know that was the best decision in that case, actually. The train was a faster way to get where they were going. But
it's true, but, for the story, it worked.
So the coachman, Kent, is standing with his hands on his head, looking at the burning building like, oh, no. He finds Lemmy and Miss Grimes unconscious but alive, and nobody else. It's like, I guess Tillum, he was in charge of the household staff. He must have sent everybody away. Everybody that he could reasonably get rid of. And this is where he's thinking. He's like, it seems really unlikely the bandits could have, since last night, bribed Tillum to try to kill me. How would they even have known that the butler would be open to bribes? There's other better choices on the household staff, more likely to be open to that kind of thing. And Tillum has been trying to discourage him this whole time. So whoever it was, the butler's been working for them for a while. And that means they were watching Wax all along. And that's the end of that chapter.
It was Agatha all along.
And so as they're riding in a carriage, Marisai's it's a Marisai perspective, I guess. She's thinking about the university and things that she's done there. Meanwhile, Wax is contemplating things, and Wayne appears to be taking a nap. He'd found a hat somewhere, a flimsy cap of the type broadsheet boys like to wear. So it's at some point between fleeing the mansion and getting into the carriage, Wayne pulled this hat from who knows where.
He took it from a broadsheet boy. He's like, I'll trade you this paper for your hat. That's my paper. Yeah, but I'll trade you.
And Wayne is he's napping because I don't know if she actually mentions it, but he's working on recharging some of his health that he's just spent. So, and Marisai's thinking to herself, "This is what you wanted. You're the one who insisted Lord Harms bring you to meet Wax. So you put yourself in here." And she's just disappointed that she's not made a very good showing so far. I really like the end of this paragraph where she's like, she starts to decide, and then she's like, no sulking. That would only make things worse. She's got to move forward. I like that a lot. Even if she's being very overly critical of herself here. She's like, oh, I'm just this useless girl that they're having to drag around. So apparently the words of founding that Sayes left behind had included the drawing and plans for the city of Ellendale, though the name had been chosen by the Lord Mistborn.
Oh, yeah, because, Spookville ain't exactly a great name.
I don't know. Might have been good.
Neither is Lestabornville or whatever.
Lestaborn City.
I definitely thought Spookville when I was like Lord Mistborn. I was like, oh, well, he could have gone in that direction. I'm glad he didn't.
Spookville population U.
There's a large round park at the center where flowers bloom year-round and the canals radiate out. The streets were originally laid out, per the plans, wider than anyone would have once assumed they'd need, and yet now they seem almost insufficient. So see, Sayes was thinking way ahead, knowing that maybe even knowing that cars would be coming out at some point. It was like, okay, we're going to give them wide streets to start with. As they approach the Field of Rebirth, you can see the Marewill flowers.
Cute.
Yep. According to the annotations, Spook, the Lord Mistborn, named them after Kelsier's wife. He was actually in charge of naming a lot of things, such as the months of the year.
And again, I have to wonder how much of this was Spook and how much of this was that voice of Kelsier in his ear just going, like, if you don't name these flowers after my wife, I will haunt your ass. Like, you're already haunting me.
It's like, it's like, if you don't name these after my wife, I will never be friends with you again.
The statues of the last emperor and the ascendant warrior dominate the top, capping their tomb. So Vin and Elend have a tomb there. I love those names for them. The last emperor and the ascendant warrior. Those are awesome names.
Last of two.
I mean, there might have been quote unquote emperors before the Lord Ruler took over everything of like various factions. Who knows?
I guess.
There's a museum there with relics from the world of Ash that had been saved by the originators. Also, the world of Ash is a cool thing to call the Final Empire world. Those who had been nurtured in the wombs of the earth and reborn to build society. Okay, that's getting a little bit flowery.
They were birthed in the womb of the earth and came up to rule society. They are the people of Ash.
And Marasai is also thinking about the bomb that just almost killed them. And she's like, Lord Waxillium, how did your uncle die? Apparently his uncle, the uncle's wife, and Wax's sister were all riding in a carriage. His cousin had just recently died, and so they were all going on a trip to ease their grief. Horse bolted, the hitching snapped, and the carriage went off a cliff. And he feels kind of bad. He's like, I feel kind of guilty, like I should be more crushed to lose them, but I hadn't seen any of them in years. And Wayne's like, I think the story involves enough crushed people already. Very sensitive.
You ass.
And Marasai kicks him. He's like, be respectful of the dead. Already she starts ordering me around. Women.
Watch yourself, Wayne.
Right. So he's thinking, he wrote it off as nothing, no foul play in that particular death. And now maybe he needs to rethink that. And she's like, but why would they kill your uncle? Shouldn't they be worried about bringing you into town, removing your uncle, and accidentally putting Waxillium Dawnshot onto them? And Wayne is offended by this nickname, Waxillium Dawnshot. She's like, I'm sorry, that's what the reports call him. That's what they should call me. I'm the one who likes a good shot of whiskey in the morning. Morning to you is well past noon, Wayne. I doubt you've ever seen the dawn. That's right, unfair. See it all the time when I stay up too late. Wayne wants to go see Renette. And Wax is like, we're not going to see Renette. I don't even know where she lives. And he's like, oh, she lives over in the 3rd Octant. Red brick house, 2 stories. That's not stalkerish at all.
Yeah.
And Mara says, like, who? And Wax is like, nobody. Don't worry about it. How are you with a pistol? And she's like, not good. The targeting club uses rifles. And then he gives her some advice on how to shoot a pistol after handing her one. 8 out of 10 constables firing a handgun at a criminal 10 feet away miss. And Wax is like, oh, I guess Wayne doesn't need to feel so bad. I once saw him try to shoot someone 3 paces away and hit the wall behind himself. And Wayne's like, it's not my fault. Bullets are devious buggers. They shouldn't be allowed to bounce. Metal don't bounce, and that's true as titanium. Oh, Wayne. So they get to this place where the Vanishers were hiding out, and Wax is pretty sure it's going to be empty, but she's like, you stay here just in case while we check the place out. And eventually they open the door, and Wax is like, we found 2 tripwires rigged with explosives, nothing else dangerous, except for Wayne's body odor. And then they have a nice back, and I just love their relationship, their insults going back and forth.
They just rib each other all the time, and it's like, have you ever said a nice word to each other? Probably not.
Oh, guy friendships. Everyone hates everyone. Oh no, but these 2 clearly love each other. It's really cute. Like as Wax is walking away, Wayne's like, man, it's really good to see him like feeling like his old self. They find evidence that this is where the aluminum weapons or bullets may have been forged, and that these people were hiding something based on having apparently intentionally blacked out the windows so no one would see in. And there's a door out to like the canal that swings open opens pretty easily for moving freight off and on of ships. So like maybe they were moving something after they stole them via the canals. And then Wayne is like, you wait down here, and he's going to go check out the sleeping area upstairs. And while Marasai is thinking, she realizes he's been gone kind of a while, and she goes up there. And then Wayne plays a practical joke on her where he puts on a fake voice, and he's like, I'm afraid he's dead, young lady. I'm sorry for your loss. An aged, distinguished voice said from the darkness. He was simply too handsome, too clever, and too immensely remarkable in all aspects of his existence to allow to live. I'm afraid it took 100 men to bring him down, and he killed all but one. His last words were, tell Wax that he's a total git, and he still owes me 5 notes. Oh, Wayne. He found some more explosives that they missed in their first pass over the place, rigged to blow when a latch on a chest was opened. And she goes, was there anything in the chest? And he's like, yeah, explosives. Weren't you listening?
I don't know how good I feel about that they missed all of that on the first go and that she was in the building.
Yeah, I agree. Although I feel like they're probably, checking doors and stuff the first go around for the obvious things. Yeah, it's very lucky that he went up there first and she did not try to open a chest. But they're looking around, not finding much. There's not even really many good places to hide stuff. And the explosives are dynamite used for blowing holes in rock out in the roughs. Pretty easy to get even here in the city. They were in a cigar box, expensive brand Citizen Magistrates, very expensive. And there are some numbers scribbled in under the lid of the cigar box. We'll show it to Wax. This is the sort of thing he likes. Probably lead to some grand theory about how our boss smokes cigars and not let him pick a guy out of the crowd. He's always doing stuff like that.
He's going to decipher these numbers, you know. He's going to be like, have you ever seen that show with David Krumholtz? And
Yeah, Numbers. We talked about that last episode.
It's called Numbers. No, this is Wayne talking to her.
Oh, okay.
She's like, no, I haven't seen that one. He's like, yeah, it was on, you know, in the like early 2000s. It was pretty good.
She's just like, what's a television?
After we talked about
like,
that,
yo,
briefly,
we got him in the roughs all the time. What are you
I
talking
went and started watching some episodes of that again. It's on some streaming service. Good show.
I'm watching it too. It's in our DVD player right now.
about? He killed me with a sword, Mal.
How weird is that? Now that you say that, I think I do have the DVDs somewhere. But yeah, I like that show. She's like, how did you guys start working together in the first place? And Wayne's like, oh, it's not in the reports you read. And she's like, no, it's considered a bit of a mystery. And this is where we get their heart to heart. It feels to me very much like a scene where it's just like, okay, we're going to go ahead and throw all this exposition in here real quick so that we can get it out. But it's very interesting exposition to me, at least. So I'm okay with it.
It's also like really one of the only times so far that we've seen the two of them together without Wax.
It's true.
If not the first time.
Marisai's like, oh, it's probably a good story. He's like, it's probably not what you're thinking. I was going to be hanged by the lawkeeper in Far Dorist. And she says wrongfully, I assume. And he's like, well, it depends on your definition of that word, actually. Shot an innocent man. Was it an accident? Yeah, I only meant to rob him. Wayne.
Yeah, that sucks.
You were a criminal? Not a very capable one. I've always had a problem not taking things. I just grab stuff, and then, you know, it's there in my fingers. That is how grabbing stuff works, yes. I had some friends that convinced me I should go a little further, really get hold of my destiny, they said. Get into robbing people with guns and the like. I do like the pause where he finds something in a cupboard. And she's like, clues? And he's like, no, old nudes. Probably from before the bandits even bought the place. At least it'll give the cops something fun to find. So he goes back to his story, and he's like, I panicked. Didn't really know what I was doing. Maybe I wanted to get caught. Didn't want to shoot him. Old Deadfinger caught me easy. Didn't even have to beat a confession out of me. I cried the whole time. I was just 16. Still don't know why Wax saved me. I should have hanged, you know. Killed a good man. Wasn't even rich. A bookkeeper who did charity work. Drew up letters transcribed for the mine workers who couldn't write so they could send home to their families. Found out a lot about him at the trial, you see. Got to see his kids crying and his wife. Got a letter from him a few months back. Wait, they write you letters? Yeah, I send them half of what I make to keep the kids fed, you know. Figured it makes sense seeing as I killed their daddy. They still hate me. Write me letters to let me know they haven't forgiven me and that no money will bring their dad back. They're right, but they do take the money, so that's something. And she's just like, oh.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poor Wayne.
She's like, I'm so sorry, Wayne. And he's like, yeah, me too. Some mistakes you can't fix by being sorry. And on the one hand, yes, it's like, oh, he made a little mistake as a kid, and it's like his whole life he has to live with that. At the same time, it's like he killed an innocent man, orphaned 3 kids. It's hard to feel bad for that murderer, but we know Wayne, and he's not a bad guy. So
yeah, it's
I mean,
perspective.
it's a pretty big mistake to have made.
No joke.
Yeah, but it's also a case of like he could, like, you have to think these people on one level they're probably like, we never want to hear from you again. Like how dare you like leave us alone? But he's like acknowledging, I can't make this right for you, but I'm going to send you the money anyway. It's like he doesn't have to do that.
Right. But that's why he and guns don't get along well. My hands start shaking when I hold one, wobbling around like a damn fish dumped on the docks. Ain't that the funniest thing?
I think it was nice to get that explanation because we've made comments before about him wanting to use his dueling canes and all that sort of stuff. And I think it was good to just have a bit of an answer as to why he was like that.
Yep.
Because we're like, in this world of guns, why would that be your weapon of choice? But, you know, he's not very good with the guns, and he has a really damn good reason why.
Right? Yeah, I don't blame him. But Wax shows up, and he's like, hey, we're having a heart-to-heart here. Get out of here. Wax spoke to the local beggars. The Vanishers have been moving something large in and out of the building onto a canal boat on several occasions, and it sounds bigger than just cargo, some kind of machinery. What'd you find? What'd you find? Found a box. Some more dynamite.
What'd you found?
Yeah, what'd you found? He tells him to bring the dynamite. It might be useful. There's some nudie pictures, too. They're so faded you can barely make out the good parts. Ladies ain't wearing any guns, so you probably wouldn't be interested anyway.
Burn.
But when Wax sees this box and the numbers, he narrows his eyes and looks at Wayne, who nods like they both know something here. Wax tosses the box back, and he's like, yeah, sir, have you ever heard of Miles Dagouter? Dagouter? I don't know how you say it. Sure, Miles 100 Lives, which is way easier to say than his actual last name, so I'm going to go with it. Lawkeeper out in the roughs. And Wax is like, yep.
And also, of course she has.
Yeah. She loves these stories. He's like, come on, we're going to take a trip, and I'm going to tell you a few stories, and that's the end of the chapter. Miles 100 Lives always makes me think of Millions Knives from...
Trigun?
Trigun, yeah.
Yeah, Vastra Stampede and Knives Million. Yeah.
And I don't know why the names just sound kind of similar, and I guess they both involve a number, but it's just what it always reminds me of.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's do predicaments. Where do you guys think this is going? And then we'll get into the Kickstarter thing after that.
Honestly, I'm really not sure where this is going. Like they're digging around. Like I think something is gonna come of these numbers, but I don't know what. But I feel like that's not going to come into play for a while. That'll be something they just sort of sit on and forget for a while, and then after things have gone to hell, they think we've got no chance of solving this, and then they'll remember the numbers and they'll figure out what it actually means.
Okay.
But that's not going to be for a while yet. I don't know where it's going immediately. I do think that woman that's in the city that they talked about, and Wax doesn't want to see her. Like she's going to have to show up soon. They might have to go to her for information.
Right. And I don't know if you remember her from previous times when they have mentioned her.
They did?
Yeah. So let's see.
Yeah, she was like a fellow law person. Is that what it was? Or?
So the information we have, she's been mentioned, it looks like twice before this. First is when he has his guns, his Styrians in his underarm holsters, but they're too big. And it says, unfortunately, he'd never found anything as good as Ronette's work. Hadn't she moved to the city, though? Perhaps he could look her up and talk her into making him something, assuming she didn't shoot him on sight.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think they're going to go to her for information, and I feel like she must be related to Leslie somehow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Because, he talks about, she'll shoot, like you just said, she'll shoot him on sight, and then he's like, no, we're not going to see her. So I get the feeling like she has resentment to him over that whole situation, whether or not she knows he's the one who shot her, or it's just like he got her into a situation where she was killed. I think that'll be the bulk of their resentment. So that'll come into play at some point. But yeah, that's really all I've got this time.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So let's kind of take this case by case here. I'm predicting we're gonna find out that Tealum at some point we're gonna find out that maybe he did have something to do with the death of the uncle and the sister. And I think maybe it wasn't enough that they were keeping tabs on Wax. They actually wanted him to be close by for a specific purpose. But when he was getting too close too early, they were just like, well, we're just going to have to kill him. Or maybe Tealum was told to kill him because whoever's behind this knew that they wouldn't be able to, that Tealum wouldn't be able to do it, but it would force Wax into action more quickly.
Oh, interesting.
For whatever reason, it feels like they want Wax around and to be interested in what they're doing, but I don't really know why. So that part is a little strange to me. The Steris, I'm really concerned that there's not going to be a happy ending with Steris. Like something's going to have happened, that she's going to be dead or going to be basically ungettable. So that's kind of where I feel like that's heading, because they're really setting up Marasai to be his love interest, I feel like, in the book. So I would say that that's probably not going to spell out good news for Steris at the end of this. That would be my guess based on what we've read so far. As far as who's behind all this, I don't think we would keep mentioning Miles if he wasn't the one behind this, or have mentioned him to begin with. And I think maybe the cigar box is actually a tip off to Wax that it is Miles, because that's when he says, after they show him the box, he's like, let me tell you about this guy. So I feel like maybe that's kind of the tip off to Wax, like, yeah, this is Miles. So there's going to be something going forward, more immediately, that he's going to start investigating Miles specifically, into trying to find Miles specifically. So that's what I think is going to be happening in the immediate future. That there's a bigger portion that I'm trying to form my brain around about why Wax is important, or why his family's important. I don't know if it's because he's from one of the families with lines that go back further than the beginning of the New World, or what, but it just seems strange that a lot of these things are centering around him, when really, he's just one guy. His house isn't even the most important house in the current political climate or atmosphere. So that also, I feel like, lends more credence to the fact that it could be Miles, because Miles knows him from the Roughs. So
maybe it's a personal thing there.
Yeah, maybe it's a personal thing. So yeah, that's kind of what I got. I don't really know of anything else that would really inform of what's to come. At least not yet.
Be a shame if things went that badly for Steris. I mean, she's a weird lady, don't get me wrong, but I don't dislike her enough to want her to, end up dead at the end or something. Although, I guess if Lord Harms has no other children, then if she died, maybe Marasi would be his heir, and then maybe if they're setting up a romance between Marasi and Wax, it makes sense. Like, he would still get the money that he needs or whatever.
I mean, I don't even know if that's going to be important to him at the end of all this, like the money aspect, But I mean, it definitely could be. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're a bit early to make heavy predictions yet, but there's definitely something personal with Wax going on, whether it's like Joe thought, maybe it's, stems back further, or whether it's just relating to Miles. I mean, it still seems pretty big, even if it's relating to Miles. I'm really curious as to how he gets Miles' 100 lives. And especially because we know that the guy at the dinner vanished as well. So I'd be really interested to see what sort of powers he's got. But it does look like it's pointing to Miles being involved. I think we sort of I threw out secret bad guy. Was that Marasi? That I was like secret bad guy last week?
I think so.
Yeah, okay. Because I still like that in some level now, because she's getting in all close and she knows all this stuff and she's going to write things down, and this Tiller maybe doesn't want her around because he knows she's involved somehow, and now he has to go and kill Wax, and he has to do it because she's there, and it's all a bit, he's like, get out of it, don't do it, don't get into it, it's too late. Maybe he's in a bit of a situation he doesn't want to be in there. I mean, also being the illegitimate child it's a very close line to the Lord Mistborn, I think, is what they were using there as well. So I don't know. She's got a bit too much information, I think, for my liking. I don't know whether it's just a device to deliver that information to the reader, or, is she a bit crazy? I don't know. Now she's got this relation to that bloodline. What does that do for her? Some sort of legitimacy, maybe, if everyone else is out of the way in the house. I don't know, but I don't know. I like her. That's the problem. She's nice, and I really enjoy the dynamic between Wax and Wayne and Marasi, but I don't know. There's something else going on with her there. Like, yeah, they've uncovered the secret that she's illegitimate, but I don't know. I think there's something else there.
Okay.
She's too clever as well.
She's just too good at what she does.
She's just too good.
I don't know that we've ever had a situation where, like, a character whose head we've been in, like, has the prospective characters ended up being like a shady, unless I guess if you count the what's his name, the Gjorn from Elantris. Hrathen, but he was supposedly the bad guy from the beginning, so he wasn't like a secret bad guy.
Well, and then he ended up being kind of a good dude at the end.
Right. So that
was creepily attracted to what's her face.
So that would be really interesting and different if it turns. Yeah,
how do you hide? Yeah, how do you hide part of your own internal monologue from the reader?
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit bit weird. Yeah, I don't know. That's a bit of a flaw in my logic, but
I guess
We'll
we
see.
will find out. We are 55% of the way through, so
really?
downhill slopes now. Yep. Okay.
Mm.
I guess let's talk about, and honestly, by the time this episode comes out, the campaign's going to be nearly over. But for anyone, I can't imagine, who was not aware, Brandon Sanderson came out the week we're recording this. It'll be several weeks ago when you're hearing this. But first he came out and was like, hey, I'm going to make this announcement tomorrow. And he made it sound all concerned and worrying. And then he released a video where he starts out, he's like, I'm sorry, I've been lying to you, so on and so forth. I wrote this secret book in the last couple of years with all the extra time I had from not traveling. And then as the video continues, he's like, actually, there were 2 books that I wrote in secret. Actually, there were 5 books that I wrote in secret. And there's a Kickstarter campaign out right now to release 4 of these books to people. 3 of them are going to be in the Cosmere, and 1 of them will not be. So, and since it came out just a couple days ago, it has become the most funded ever campaign on Kickstarter. It is now at $24,100,000 as we're
Jeez. And the original goal was $1 million, right?
Yeah. I never pay much attention to original goals because usually campaigns set them way below what they expect to get.
Right, but still, I mean, that's insane.
Yep.
And we're only there's like still 25 days left.
25 days left out of the 30. Yep.
So
He's got a bit of a flair for the dramatic old Brandon, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Sure
he's a little bit of a prankster, and he's always liked to prank people every once in a while. Which the day before when he made his first statement, a bunch of people on Reddit were like, "Oh my gosh, he's got cancer or something." And then a few people are like, "Well, remember, Brandon is kind of a prankster, so this may be, not really bad news." The most common thing was people were like, "Oh, I bet he needs to take a break for a while. He's been going really hard, and nobody deserves it more." Everyone is really like, this guy deserves a break. He writes more than anybody else. He should actually absolutely take whatever time he needs. Nope, turns out
it was the opposite.
So I have backed the Kickstarter campaign at a way more expensive tier than I probably should have, but I couldn't help myself.
I also backed the campaign at just the hardcover tier because I just wanted the books. I don't care about the swag, and I wanted the art.
I originally was like really tempted to just do the ebooks because I read mostly an ebook now anyway. And I was like, I'm just doing the cheapest tier, the $40 get the 4 ebooks. Honestly, that price is pretty good. Ebooks are often more expensive than that when they're, big name writer books.
Mm-hmm.
And I clicked on that to buy it before I talked myself into a more expensive one.
So we haven't done it yet, but I'm sure that we will.
Well, I'm looking at it now, and it says because if we do it, I would want to get the book, like the actual
hardcovers with the art.
Yeah.
That's the one I went for.
International shipping is insane.
Yeah, it's pretty high.
That's it. It says it ships only certain countries, so I'd need to research and see is it actually going to ship here or not.
Let's see here. It says we unfortunately cannot ship everywhere. Currently, these are the countries we can ship to, and Australia is listed as one of the possibilities they can ship to.
Okay, so that's cool.
I was going to say Australia would be a pretty big one to get rid of.
I would assume so as well, but who knows?
He has said that he's not sure if the books will be available in hardcover editions in the future.
But he certainly said they won't have the same artwork.
It won't be the same like with full color artwork and stuff. And so it says while regular hardcover and paperback editions with the traditional publisher are possible sometime in the future, after this campaign is fulfilled, the premium versions will not be available again. Which is also why I ended up going for the books, the hardcovers. I was like, ugh. But at the same time, I was like, these are books we're gonna have to read on the show, so we're going to need to get Dak and Jamie them. So I wasn't going to make you guys back them if you weren't interested, but I was like, we may have to do ebooks or something, or wait for a paperback version.
Oh no, I'm happy to.
No, we think we'll get them.
Yeah, we'll pledge and we'll get them. Just looking at the cost, and so that's $160 for 4 books.
Then I don't know what y'all's international shipping was. I think the shipping for me in the US added another $40.
Okay.
That's all right. There's 2 of us though.
Because they're gonna ship them, I guess, once a quarter, which is why they have to pay a separate shipping every time. I think, which is why shipping's higher.
Yeah.
It says for just the 4 books internationally, it adds $140 shipping.
Woo!
So that's like double almost the price. That's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all right. So for the books itself, it's US $160. That's $218 Australian. So yeah,
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll get a version of them somehow.
yeah, definitely.
But the ebooks will definitely be available later, which is why I was just like, if we have to do them, then we may have to figure out an ebook thing, and we'll because that's the only one that absolutely for sure will be available later on. So, but anyway, we'll figure that out. Nice. What do you guys think about this craziness?
I was pretty shocked. I mean, I started watching the video at work, and then when I realized that he was just kind of going, I was like, oh, I better wait and watch this later. And when he pulled out the new book, I was like, oh wow, a new book. And then when he pulled out like the next book, I was like, whoa, 2 books? And then like he just kept going, and I was like, what is this guy? What kind of crazy creature is he?
Yeah, on top of what he was like contractually obliged to already write.
Yep.
Yeah. Also,
That's
like,
insane.
I wanted to hear how his publisher reacted when he was like, oh, hey, like, just so you know, I'm going to self-publish these 4 books that I wrote on the side because, we didn't do a contract for these, and I really wrote these for just me and my wife, but now I want to share them with the readers, and, the team thinks it's a good idea. Was his publisher just like, Brandon, what are we going to do with you, man?
I do wonder. Yeah, he's got at least 2 publishers because, like, his Cosmere books are done by a different company than some of his other books. So I don't know what the contracts look like that he's able to do that. But
I assume he can work on any outside project he wants. I mean, with how prolific he is, surely he has a contract where they're like, hey, man, you keep a schedule and we don't have to worry about you with your publications because you're always on time. You're not like the other authors we have to deal with. So if you got side stuff you want to work on, we know you're going to get us our stuff on time. So we don't care. I mean, surely that's the relationship they have.
He's mentioned in the past when he talked about, I don't even remember what he was talking about, but he's like, in this situation, this publisher has first right of refusal. So I have to like show this to them before I can do something else with it. But that may have just been like a specific sort of situation. I don't know. But I don't know how contracts in the literary industry work in general. So I can't really comment. Yeah. You got to imagine, though, that after something being this wildly successful, other big authors might start looking into, hey, maybe I should do something that's going to make me $24 million.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that like is the cost is going into the books and shipping them out, and how much of it is going into the team's pocket.
Right. This guy is a monster of writing. Everyone's like, somebody posted just on Reddit today, like a screenshot of one of those buttons you have to click when you go to a website that's like, I am not a robot. They're like, Brandon, we're going to need you to take this test. Can you say you're not a robot? I'm getting these swag boxes, and it's interesting. They've got all different. There's one box that is just Hoyd themed.
Yeah.
Ooh, sexy drifter themed, huh?
Yeah. Comes with its own corpse boat.
Is that Hoyd on the cover of the thing on the cover of the Kickstarter?
That is what people are saying, yes. And there's some details on him that kind of bear that out, but some of those might be spoilers, so I won't tell you.
Gotcha.
So yes, I was shocked when I saw this video, and many other people were like, "Holy crap, this guy's insane!" I was delighted at these new books and stuff, and at the same time, I was like, "How dare you worry us so much?" This dude. Okay, but yes, that's.
I guess I've got a question relating to the Kickstarter. Now, obviously, having no idea what these books are about, what does that do to your schedule for us?
People have been asking that already in the Discord. So are you going to wait and read these for the first time along with the others so that you're all experiencing it brand?
You know he's not doing that.
And yeah, my answer was I'm not sure that I could force myself to do that, but I have the additional excuse that I need to read them so I can figure out where they go in our schedule.
Exactly.
I'm sticking to that
because we may have to, because depending on where they go, we may need to read them next.
Yeah. I kind of doubt that he would, but maybe. So we'll see. I mean, definitely won't be next because they don't come out till next year, but we'll be, if my plan flows, we'll be in the middle of a Stormlight book probably by that time. So we'll see.
The Stormlight Archives.
Somebody did make a suggestion, which I'm thinking about actually taking, that one thing is people have been asking, we want to support you guys to help give money to help you guys buy books or pay for whatever. So I've been working on putting a Patreon thing together. One of the One of the things that someone suggested, which finally made me be like, okay, maybe if I do this, I will feel like we have some content to put up a Patreon and be like, here's extra stuff for you guys. The suggestion was when new Brandon stuff comes out, as I read it, I record like my thoughts chapter by chapter. And they even showed me examples like, here's somebody who read like one of the Stormlight books and recorded like each chapter. There's like an 8-minute thing where as they're reading the book, they're going through and like, oh my gosh, this is happening, and like giving their thoughts. And I was like, you know what? That I could do. I could like record my thoughts on each chapter, and we could post those as extra stuff for the patrons where they get like me being not spoiled on them. And then we could, the show would still have to stay the same. None of you guys would have to put in a bunch of extra work or whatever. So
That could be cool.
that is what I'm thinking about going forward, and I'm working on exactly that.
Here's what I won't do. I will not read dinosaur erotica for the Patreon.
That's funny because that was also what there's like, you should have a goal where Joe has to read some dinosaur erotica.
I will never do that. There is no dollar amount that you could pay me to get me to do that.
I'll have to take, when I was looking at constructing the Patreon page, I put up a goal that was like $150 a month. Joe will read dinosaur erotica. So I'll have to take that down, I guess.
Yeah, you're going to have to take that out. I'm not doing that.
I would pay for some extra Possum Hunter.
Sure. We
Some
could
Possum
do like
Hunting skits.
Sure, we could do, I could write up me and Dak could work on writing up a script for Possum Hunters, and they could have their own adventures. That might be fun.
So another thing we could do is one of the Baby Break episodes was you were reading reviews of books Joe had read, and you had to guess which books it were. Like you could do one with me and one with Jamie for that as well.
It's true.
Yeah. If we have to take another break for some reason that Joe's gone, then yeah, we could totally do some stuff. I have to come up with
do
some
one with
ideas for the
Data.
podcast. Ooh, or you guys have to find stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we could flip it.
That would be interesting.
Yep.
So yes, there's ideas, but I think I have a good starting point, and we can elaborate on that as we go, put up some more goals if we have other ideas. But I was going to wait until we got closer to something new coming out. Like maybe if we get the White Sand graphic novel in June, that can be like the first thing, and I'll put up the thing and be like, hey, here's the first of the extra content. Because obviously, even though he writes ridiculous numbers of books, this would not be a thing where there was new content all that often, because it would only be when there was something new that I could read, right? Assuming that we didn't have additional content. So I don't want to have like 3 months where here's the Patreon, we're not posting anything new on it yet. So anyway, audience, keep a lookout for that. If you're interested in supporting us, that will be an opportunity. If you're not, then just keep listening. That's support enough for me most days, so I'm good.
Did you say there was a book in this series, the Wax and Wayne series, coming out this year as well?
Yep, November is when the last book
in
this series is supposed to come out.
Excellent.
Sweet.
So, yep, there will be at least a couple new things this year that we could totally do that with. Yes, I'm excited about that possibility, and I really appreciate everyone who's contacted me like, hey, is there a way that we can help support the show? Because honestly, I mean, books in Australia are more expensive than books here. I think it's just because not that much gets printed there, so it all has to get shipped, which adds a little bit imports to the. But even then, it's not really. They're not generally that pricey, so it's not that big a deal because each book lasts us like months. So it's like paying $20-$30 for 3 or 4 months of content is not that big a deal. On my end, but at the same time, I mean, like I pledged 2 times for us to get the graphic novel, the White Sand graphic novel, sent to y'all and sent to me, and that was a little bit pricey. That's when I first started seriously thinking maybe I'll look into a way to actually, if people want to contribute a little bit, to let them. But I don't want to have ads on the show, and I don't want to have a show that you have to pay for, because really that kind of detracts from the fun of it for me. And that's the whole reason that we started in the first place, because I thought it would be a lot of fun. So try to keep it that way as long as possible has been my goal up to this point. Okay. We don't have any new reviews or emails this week. Hey guys, if this is your opportunity, now that we've got some new Mistborn and Ferrochemist, or not Mistborn, Misting and Ferrochemist names coming in, if you want to leave a 5-star review for Joe to jump you into the Misting crew, now is the time.
You could be a blood maker. Yeah, you could be what's the speed bubble one called?
Skimmer. Maybe he'll give you a Twinborn name. You could be a Crasher. That's the only Twinborn name we know so far, so that's the only one you're allowed to be.
Have we not heard Wayne's Twinborn name?
I don't think we have, no.
Okay. Crasher.
Bloodskim.
Blood Skimmer. That'd be a
Yeah.
cool name.
So leave us some reviews if you want to get jumped in. If you'd like to send us emails, the email address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. We're on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and places like that. We are at this point a little ahead of normal because we recorded an extra episode. So if you send us an email, it may be a little while before you hear it. But then again, if you send an email after you read this, we'll be caught back up again. So
It's true.
if you sent an email like 3 weeks ago and haven't heard it yet, that's why. Maybe that's a better thing for me to say.
There you go.
So for next time, we are reading 3 more chapters. That'll be chapters 11, 12, and 13 for next time. And we are trucking right along. That's episode 6 of 9 that we're doing for this book. So we only have 4 episodes left.
Dang.
Yeah, we're getting there. But thank you everyone for listening. Music by Miracle of Sound and Wussing to the Time of Next. Colo?
When we lose everything that defines us, can we hold to the promise that binds us and carry on into tomorrow's sorrow? When we're facing the ghosts of our destinies, will we turn or remain in the memories and choose to lead or choose to follow sorrow?
I want you to keep in the part where Dak's like, you can edit this out, right?
Oh yeah, that'll be hilarious. We're absolutely keeping that. They'll love it.